out of 99. He'd be close to getting it, but Jack Steele with his 133 in that final game, I think he'll get my +3. And then in terms of -3, I'm a bit with Rojo there in terms of I'm tempted to give it to Dawson with the C armband on him. I thought that was a pretty poor performance, but I think Took Miller takes the cake with his 81. Just not good enough, and he was a trade in for me this week. So. Yeah, so, I'm feeling a bit the same as you, mate. I think now my hat chances are gone. I haven't had a look at what the difference is in terms of points now between 100 and where I am. But it was 280 last week. It would have slid out this week. So we'll just, get the attention on the Content Creators Cup and see how we go from here anyway. But
did Mitch give his +3?
Oh, there's not too much to write home at my team this week, mate. So...
The doctor was good for you.
The doctor was good. He did the big boys proud, yeah. So I was pretty stoked with that one. But I'll also give a little shout out to Zach Butters, who was close to being traded out for my team just because of the injury concerns. But the language coming from the club was pretty positive, so I held him. And 105 is not the greatest score, but considering his last couple of rounds, I'll take it. So if Bale's got Doc, I'll take Butters.
Awesome, mate. Awesome. All right. Well, let's just turn our attention to the AFL Fantasy Content Creators Cup for a second. Proudly brought to you by Infinite Wealth, helping you reach your financial goals faster. We're winning coaches that get $5,000 for their favourite charity. And remember, there's something special for every coach available too. Head across to infinitewealth.com.au/AFL Fantasy to claim your free 5-module online learning program, the Fast Track to Freedom. I know there's a bunch of content creators that have jumped in and done the course. Now they're getting lots of messages from them, so that's great. Look, essentially it's all about learning how I built my wealth and the strategies I got taught by a multimillionaire, and you can learn things like how to pay off your mortgage up to 3 times faster, how to build a portfolio and replace your income, and how to save thousands on tax every year. So head across to infinitewealth.com.au/AFL Fantasy. And there is a webinar coming up in the next couple of weeks, which will be going out as an email to people who have registered there. That'll be available too. But let's just, I want to kind of update just quickly. Like I said, shout out to Nathan, who got the biggest score this week with a 24-24, just pipping Bales. I think, big shout outs worth to Bales there. I know he struggled in this year, but having a big, he's coming home strong. So well done, mate.
3 wins on the trot to finish the year, and
I know, mate.
Yeah, just unfortunately a few close losses, and I couldn't sneak out. But I'm coming for the top 8 in the overall.
Yes, well, let's talk through the top 8 in overall. Kicking us off with Rojo, mate. In terms of overall ranking, 27-36 is where you are, mate, which is rounds us out in our top 8 for overall ranking. We then got Miller time. Yeah, mate, anything?
No, I was just going to say I've just been hiking the comeback trail in that regard, so not as much movement this week, but, yeah, chipping away at it.
Head down, bum up, chipping away at that rank. Good work, man. Good work. Miller time from Break Even Pod, 23.75. Junk Time Janitors from Break Even Pod, 23.21. The Obermullets, Nathan, 22.68. Louis has been on the move for about the past 6 rounds now. He is now inside the top 2,000 at 18.48. Good job, Louis. I know he listens to the pod. He said it's apparently we're the only pod he listens to. So, well, that's what he's telling me. Maybe some of the other content creators can let me know if he's told them that same thing as well. Only joking, mate. Only joking. Sanch is now third still with a 7.95. So not much of a movement for him this week. Mitch has now slid to second with an overall ranking of 477, and I'm at 401 there, so just outside the top 400. But there, that's the AFL Fantasy Content Creators Cup. So now our regular season is over, because it was one of those leagues where I wanted everyone to play everyone once to make it as fair as possible. And our finals will now start next week. So yeah, we'll have a league winner on the second last round. Will be sorted out, and then in the last round will be the overall winner. And each of those winners will get money for charity. So we'll see how it finishes out. But now turning our attention to the games. So let's kick us off with the first game of the week. Essendon defeated by Western Bulldogs by 41 points at Marvel Stadium. In terms of injuries, Ridley did his right quad there. And then a couple of things I just wanted to run through here. In terms of CBAs, I mean, definitely Treloar, Libba and Bont are the big bananas there for the Western Bulldogs. McCraney got 29% of CBAs. Daniel slid to 12% and Bailey Smith had 8%, although he did look good, mate. Walk us through it, Bales.
Yep, so Bont was the top scoring fantasy player for this game, 128. We had as me and DC were talking about on Friday night, we both predicted Laverde would get 138 and Jordan Reddy would also go for a huge score. So me and DC win there. But yeah, Bont just continues to chip away and just put out monster score after monster score, and not really much else to add on him. If you don't have him, just try and jump on if you can get on. Libba keeps getting it done with a 120. Luke, mate, Dogs have got an easy run, just sort of because we'll probably be quick with Libba, but just want to get your quick thoughts on him. If people have been asked about him as like a bit of a pod, they've got a good 3-game stretch coming up. Believe it might even start after next week. Any interest there?
Not from me personally, but I guess it's the time of year where you really kind of wouldn't talk anyone out of, making these types of moves where you're looking to, as sort of Calvin says, swing for the fences. It's always a little bit tricky to kind of see what's happening there in the Bulldogs midfield. Like you said, Caleb Daniel, a bloke that I own, sort of down on his CBAs this week. Bailey Smith snuck a few in there. It is a little bit tricky, but yeah, I wouldn't sort of be talking anyone out of it if they were looking to make a spicy move.
Yep, so their run, they got Giants at Mars, who wouldn't touch him this week. Then they got Richmond, Hawthorn and West Coast in 3 games. So just something to keep note of. Bailey Smith, 114, so good score. I think he's more one we'll look at next year. He still didn't have the role, but good score if you got him in draft. Caleb Daniel, 109, good score. Does any of you boys own Caleb Daniel at all?
I've got Caleb Daniel. I traded him in a couple of weeks ago. I was sort of forced to, and the DPP was appealing to me. So he was sort of one that I think I'll still look to get off in the next couple of weeks, but I was very happy to loop his 109 on actually this week.
Yeah, he went very, very nicely. Darcy Parish, 108. So, Mitch, I've got a you for Parish there. Are you looking at him as an option, especially with he's got Swans at Marvel this week, but coming up, but then he's got, I believe, North Melbourne and West Coast back to back. So, bit unique there. Is he someone you're going to be looking at bringing in?
Yeah, he's been someone that I've been eyeing off for a little while. I think he was going to originally be in my plans either this week or the weekend after, before the Rory Laird injury. I sort of was eyeing off that back-to-back of the North and West Coast as a good play, and he's a guy that's sort of shown a consistently high floor this season. I think he's a great option to bring in if you still need to sort of get those midfield spots. But it's just, again, it's hard. A lot of us have like those midfield spots completed in terms of, do you jump off like straight away off a Tuke Miller or a Noah Anderson or something like that and go to him versus what's the upside of getting, someone like a Ben Keys or Will Day up to sort of those big dog forwards or defenders that might be lowly owned in like a Dunkley or a Sicily. So I guess it's just what other options are there, but I do like him as a pick.
Yeah, and we'll get to a couple of those options after, because I'm sure they'll be in a lot of people's trade sites this week. Tim English got a 98, so a lot of people's VC didn't quite get it done against the duo of Phillips and Bryan there. Adam Treloar got 92 for any unique owners out there. Same with Dick Martin, got 91 as well. And actually, I gave my -3 to Will Day. Stuff it. No, I'm not giving it to Will Day. I'm changing it, Tim. I'm giving it to bloody Zach Merritt. I don't like that guy. Every time I don't own him.
Did you bring him in this week?
Yeah, I brought him in this week. How could I forgot about not giving -3? So
I don't know, long time between.
Yeah, so Merritt thought he'd get away with it. Nah, mate. Bales is on to you, and -3. Every time I don't own him, he goes 150. Every time I own him, he always goes crap. So, absolute shit house. Moving on, Merritt not good enough. Jack McRae, as Mitch mentioned before, 69. Mitch, are you looking at offloading him?
Absolutely. Can someone please tell me the second that full lockout is off, because he's getting out of my team so fast, because it's been a ride that I have not enjoyed so far. He's not looking interested, and like the whole thing. I think there was a whole thing where they were giving him his props for getting his 20 disposals for I don't know how many games he's done it in a row, and well, I hope you're happy, Jack McRae. You got your 20 disposals, but 69 points, man, come on.
I didn't initially intend to give Jack McRae my +3 for helping me, but I thought that might be rubbing it in.
It was over for
you should have done it, Guesty. You should have done it.
I saw that bloody stat, that he equaled the record for the most 20 disposal games in a row, but that was probably one of the worst 20 disposal games I've seen. But anyway,
like he wasn't going to do it for a while there as well.
Yeah, exactly right. But not to keep rubbing the salt.
No, but he does have to go. I think if you have him in his time, he's a priority trade out. He's not in amongst it. The role's pretty crap. Just not in amongst it. I think that there's obviously better options, cheaper, as well as more premium options like a Dunkley that's back that we can definitely get him up to.
Yeah, well, you know exactly what's happening, Mitch. You're getting traded this week. You got the Giants down at Mars Stadium. He's going to go for his season high score. So his season high before that was a 129. He'll go 130 this week.
100%. I can book it in. Callum Mills did the same thing for me this week. Windhager's probably going to outscore him. All these sort of things. So, but that's all right. He can go, and I'll feel happier about it.
Yeah. And Ben Hobbs as well, if anyone's still got him, a 43 there. So if you've still got him, you've got to obviously move off him now. That's been 4 scores that have been very poor in a row since Parrish has been in the side. So he's got to go. Tim, moving on to Saturday.
Great. Look, before we do, 2 things I just want to say before we move on. Firstly, Friday night at the Varsity, we had everyone down there. We had DC, we had Mrs. DC, we had Taser, we had Jet. We had Jet. We had heaps of people down there, right? And awesome. It was a great night. If anyone is keen, there are going to be a few more of those nights before the end of the season. Make sure you follow me, or make sure you follow AFL Fantasy Perth. Just so you can get notified about those. Come along, have a drink with everyone. It's just a good little social gathering. Come and meet some new people, have some new friends, all that kind of stuff. Right? It's really good fun. That's the first thing. Second thing is, I'm throwing a spanner in the works here, Bells. So I think the biggest issue that we're all going to be talking about this week is going to be this. Look, I think our top 6 forwards are clear, right? I don't think there's too much argument about who those are.
Agreed.
I think our top 6 defenders are also relatively clear, right? There might be a couple, kind of in these last.
At least the top 5 are clear.
Certainly, right? Our rucks are clear, right?
Oh, mate.
Look,
so there's 3. There's 3. We'll talk about one.
Fine. But I don't think there's going to be much movement there, right? And fair play if anyone does want to jump off, right? But I think the biggest issue that we're going to be talking about is mids. So I'm actually thinking maybe what we should do is when it does come to the mids, maybe let's just skip. We'll talk about the players' scores, but let's get through the players. I know Mitch has only got limited time, but let's get to the end, and then let's have like a bit of a talking point discussion about who we think these top 8 mids are going to be between now and the end of the year, because I think this is going to be the hottest topic going on this week, and we might as well get ahead of it, right? So, anyway. Richmond defeated Hawthorn by 1 point at the MCG. A couple of points to note. Will Day got 58% CBAs. And MRO Ned Reid has been offered 1 match for rough conduct. I'm not sure who Hawthorn play next week, but I imagine that's good for their ruckman, because he is actually a pretty tough matchup as a ruckman.
Big Royal Marshall is coming up against him next week. So we'll be a bit of a sneak peek for my big boys. Marshall might feature in that later in the week. So make sure you tune into the Ball Boys on the Friday live show, and also tomorrow night, because it's always good content from the boys there. But not too many relevant players here. James Sicily was the top scoring player here with a 121. Very, very happy after that poor showing last week. Tim, as someone that doesn't own Sicily, he's come up against the Saints this week. Is he a guy that you've got in your targets?
Yeah, well, I mean, I pretty much had Dunks. I think Dunks is probably who's coming in for me this week. But in terms of what we were just speaking about, like, I don't have Doc and I don't have Sicily. And I think I need to make them priority targets because, like I said, these mids seem a bit up and down. But there doesn't seem to be too... I mean, I've got Sheasel in there. Wangane Malera has been good, but I'm concerned about getting exposed there. So that's what I'm thinking about.
Can I just say
definitely an option
with Sicily? I actually reckon he was not necessarily lucky to get to his 120, but he didn't get there the way that you would expect him to get there. He had 8 intercept marks in that game. Like, the marks that he collected was less of like the cheaper uncontested marks that he would normally get, and it was more contested. So I think what you would want to see on the selection table on Thursday night is like a blank come back into that side, and he can go back to that sort of third tall kind of a role, for you to have confidence that he's going to do that every week, because he could have easily, scored like a 90 to 100 score that game with a few questionable free kicks there as well, or lack of free kicks in that game. So, yeah, just thought it was interesting the way he scored his 120 this round.
Yeah, no, agreed. But if Blank does come in for, I think I'd have Sicily as my number one target this week personally, after he got that 160 odd against Saints earlier in the year. Tim Taranto got a 116. Good to see him put up another good score. He hasn't been as good since Hopper has been back in the side, but still getting the job done with a 116 there. Van Soldo, 103s. Anyone that jumped on him would be very, very happy. Back-to-back tons for Bigger Van there. So good work from him. And then Will Day got an 80. I think that people have got a few other issues, and especially got the Saints this week, could put up a good score. Is anyone worried that he gets any attention this week, or is he a guy that we're happy to hold for one more week and maybe move on to someone else? Anyone can jump in.
How do you feel about tags here, Luke? Or
Don't talk to me about fucking tags. Christ. Sick of hearing them. I think I've lost more points to the thought of tags this year than I have to actual tags. But yeah, I don't know. What do you reckon, Mitch?
No, I don't think so. I don't think Saints have been sort of tagging too much this year, so I wouldn't be too worried about it. So I think he should be okay. And if you have to hold him another week, I don't think it's the worst play. I think he only scored 80 because he got off to a really slow start in the first quarter, but then his other quarters were all pretty respectable. So
if he's your worst player, like one of your ones that you don't see being the top line, you're happy to move him on though?
Oh, definitely. I think.
Definitely. Yeah.
He's a risk. He leaves you exposed, so you can hold on to him if you have to. But he's someone you want to be upgrading.
If I had Cogs in my team instead of McRae, I would be upgrading Will Day to a Sicily, but I don't. I have to get rid of McRae, so I'll be doing that first. But yeah, you can definitely go to a Sicily.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on to the Carlton West Coast game, Tim. A lot of carnage injuries-wise here.
Yeah, Carlton defeated West Coast by 71 points at Marbles. A late change. Tom Barris was replaced, had an injured shoulder in the side by Bazzo. Silvani did his knee, was replaced by Young a quarter time. Shuey did his hammy in the second quarter and was replaced by O'Neill. And then Sam Walsh did his hamstring. Jesse Motlop did his calf. And Paddy Dow did an injury, but I don't know what it is yet. It wasn't listed on the AFL website. Then finally, Sam Petreski-Seaton was offered 2 weeks for rough conduct on Chincotta. CBAs, and once Walsh went out, Hewitt, Doc and Dow were the main recipients. Also, Elijah Hewitt got 38%. CBAs and Duggan got about the same.
Yeah. Just want to say, Taser was saying one of his mates in a draft league had Shuey on field and Prestia on the bench. And Shuey got, I think, 11, and it was like 30% cut off, and Shuey played 31%. So shout out to Taser's friend there. Unfortunate luck there. But Sam Doherty, 130 points. It was weird because he had quiet patches in quarters, but then just at the end, I think it was the end of the second quarter and the last quarter, he just, as you said, just junked up, went absolutely
about 30
bananas.
Points in 5 minutes of the last 5 minutes of the second quarter, and then did something similar at the end of the game.
Yeah, so I'm not going to ask you individually. I'm just going to go one, keep it less in the sense I've got to each of you three. Doherty or Sicily? So Doherty's got Collingwood this week. He's got St Kilda the week after, and Sissy's obviously got the Saints this week. Tim, who would you be picking out of those two?
Sick Dog first, Dog second.
Mitch?
I'd probably go Sicily first, just because I think he's probably got the high ceiling. This was Doc's biggest game, and it took a few of the injuries to the other mids for it to happen. And the West Coast matchup, so yeah, I'd probably go Sicily.
Luke?
Yeah, I'd go Sicily as well. I'm pissed off that I don't already own both of them due to bullets, but it's another story.
Yeah, I'd go Sissy as well with that St Kilda sugar hit, especially this week. And as you boys said, the high ceiling. Liam Duggan. So Tim, as a West Coast man, he's been putting up solid numbers. Is he? We said that probably the top 6 defenders are pretty set, but if you want to go a bit of a pod, is he someone that you might be interested in?
Oh, I think the pods. I think like we'll talk about soon. The pods are in the midfield that you got to look at. I mean, I think that's how it's going to play there. Yeah.
No, not Elijah Hewitt. George Hewitt got a 91, so he rewarded owners. I know a few people might have gone to Sheldrick to him and was able to hold Laird, which ended up being probably not a bad move, considering that a lot of the sort of primo mids didn't quite perform for coaches that maybe looked at them this week. And then Sam Walsh, as you mentioned before, was injured on 5th, but looked bloody good as well before he got injured. So unfortunate for anyone that had him in their side. So we'll go to the other game, Tim.
Sure, mate. All right. Well, Fremantle. Hang on. Have I skipped ahead? Yes, I have. Brisbane, defeating Geelong by 11 points at the Gabba. So Gary Rowan went out before the siren, injured, and was replaced by Zach Tui. Then when Will Ashcroft, and it is confirmed now, it's a torn ACL, so real bad luck for the young fellow there. That's just, it's horrible news to hear. He was replaced by Cole Lohman in the 4th quarter, and then Ocean Mullen came on for Tanner Bruin in the 3rd quarter as well. And then just something to note about this game. Tom Stewart got 50% CBAs.
Okay, so I'll run through the players. So Lockie Neal got a 105. Good for owners that still got him. He just keeps putting up good scores. Mitch Duncan, 92. I know Jet was saying to me on Monday that he wants to jump off, and I think it's still a good move to jump off. It's a bit risky having him in your team. And then Will might as well just shout out, he got a 90 for anyone that's still got him rolling around, and maybe some people might have been able to loop him on. But the two players I want to talk about here, so Josh Dunkley, I think we can all agree that he's one of the best targets to bring in after coming back with a 112 against Geelong. But the one I want to talk about, so Tom Stewart's the one. 50% CBAs. I didn't watch the game. I was out watching a local footy game in Perth here for a friend of mine was playing. 116. He's got Port Adelaide, Freo, then Port Adelaide, and two teams that he has already struggled against this year, but he did play midfield for the second half. What are our thoughts, Luke, with Tom Stewart moving forward? Because it's sort of playing midfield, he might not get the attention and sort of gets involved in sort of around the centre of the ground, or what do you think goes back to defence? What do you?
It's a little bit of a strange one, isn't it, Bales? Because typically, we celebrate when our players get more CBAs, but there's some unique cases like Stewart where we prefer them waxing behind the footy. I like to hopefully think that this particular game might have just been an anomaly. Just there was a bit of a spanking occurring in the middle there with the Lions getting on top at clearance, and I don't know whether that was just a little bit of a throw something different in the mix, throw an experienced head in there and see if we can kind of stem the bleeding in that case. So look, I don't think his scoring is necessarily going to dry up if he goes into that midfield role. And I think you'd have to be in a quite a luxurious position to look at moving him after it was 115, 116, something like that. It's not something that I would be sort of considering a flag, but I'm sort of hoping that he gets back to waxing across halfback.
Yeah, so he's Freo, he got a 72 in round 10 against them, and then he got a 66 against Port Adelaide in round 14. So two low scores. Is anyone considering trading Tom Stewart due to him being so highly owned and the fact that he's got a couple of difficult matchups on the horizon?
I was probably a week ago, but probably not anymore. I just think I've got too many other issues in my team, and I feel like Will Day is probably the high priority for me to trade out. But it is a play definitely to trade him out just and create that separation. But I think a lot of teams might have other concerns to worry about, but it is a play.
Yeah. I'm looking at it, but I think I need to make up a bit more ground and keep going. So, sweet. All right, Tim, we'll move to the next game.
Sure. All right. Freo defeated by Sydney by 50 points at Optus Stadium. This is the game we're at, Bales, with Taze. Subs, Matt Johnson got subbed off at three-quarter time. I thought that might be relevant to some people. But, man, just Sydney CBAs. Have a listen to this. Parker, 78%. Goulden, 75%. Rowbottom, 47%. Papley, 38%. Warner, 31%. Heaney, 19%. Mills, 3%.
Yeah, not great.
Scary.
We'll talk
Sorry,
about.
Bales, I was just going to say it's scary
You
stuff from a Mills perspective. But does Errol Goulden not like getting the ball when he's in at the CBAs? He seems to just froth it out there on the wing in space, getting those little plus sixes.
It was strange. Why wouldn't you have, I don't know, Goulden on the wing and bloody Mills in the centre?
So I actually read, so Pete actually put this out, it would have been late last night, early this morning. Apparently Mills was sore through the week, and John Longmire came out in the press conference and said that was why he played on the wing, because he was sore. So maybe you hold him because he's got the Bombers at Marvel. Could be a solid matchup, but we've said it, I think, last couple of weeks. He doesn't have the ceiling that he's had like last year, where he's just pure inside midfield. And I think you can move him on if you've got the cash there. But he did get a 98, which was solid enough for coaches with 2 goals there. He's not going to kick 2 goals every week, but hopefully moves back inside and scores a little bit better. Luke Parker, 127. If anyone has him, bit of a unique, a good game from him. Caleb Sarong, 102, continues to churn out tons. Just probably not those ceiling scores, but still getting the tons nonetheless. Luke Ryan, 98, good score from him. Andrew Brayshaw, 91, so not huge score from him. Errol Goulden, 89. Luke Jackson, 88. Lloyd, 86. And Hayden Young, your boys' favourite, Mitch and Luke there. But we will talk about probably Luke Jackson as the one there. Is he an option to look at? Got an 88. Could have been a bigger score if he maybe probably a bit busy after quarter time. He had a huge first quarter, but are we looking at him, Mitch, as a
Now, it's clear who those top 6 forwards are. And there's still a lot of questions in the midfield. So I think, you could really get burnt at that F6 by teams that have Dunkley if you don't. So, and I'm just, it didn't inspire a lot of confidence in him only scoring an 88. If he's not going to score, 100, 105 plus, and I'm not sure that's what we can expect from Luke Jackson, then that's a place that you can be losing points. So just be mindful of that.
Yep. Perfect. They're pretty much the scores. A lot of low ones there, but I think we'll move to the other game, which is probably a bit more exciting to watch.
Yeah, cracker of a game. Port defeated by Collingwood by 2 points at Adelaide Oval. So Dylan Williams was subbed. Actually, this is probably one of the things that helped me a little bit as well was with Darcy Cameron, was Scott Lysette getting subbed out in the 4th quarter, and Dylan Williams coming on, being that little bit of a wetter game. From the MRO, Rioli's been offered 2 for striking on Nathan Murphy. But over to you, Bales.
Yep, yeah, not a good one there from Rioli. But Connor Rosie, 108, that's 9 tons in a row. So just continues to be great. So we can enjoy him for the last sort of 5 weeks because he'll be straight mid next year, but he just keeps getting it done. Dan Houston, 106. We did probably say those defenders are pretty clear, and if you jumped on Houston, you'd be happy, but he is a very hit and miss player, can go well and can also put up some stinkers. Zach Butters, 105, very, very good once again. Darcy Cameron. Now, so Tim, obviously you were talking about Darcy Cameron as a guy that you're a bit worried about, but put up a 99 solid score. Has got, I don't exactly know who they've Carlton this week. Pretty easy matchup.
I'm pretty sure,
looking maybe to hold him for another week?
Look, I haven't looked at DFS, and I normally would, but I think off the top of my head, Carlton are a pretty easy matchup. I'm just
since Pitney's been out, you've got De Koning.
Let's have a look. Last 10, Carlton. Actually, hang on. Yeah, let's do the last 5. Let's see what that says. They're an average matchup. Look, look, once again, I think I got away with one this week, to be perfectly honest. He didn't drop in price. He scored close to 100. He's definitely someone I'm looking to get off. He might last another week because with Windhager sitting there, I might be able to loop the 2 and try and do something in the get a Took Miller up to a Josh Dunkley or something like that. So, I would be looking to get off, but not the biggest priority.
Yeah. I would agree with that as well. Nick Dacos got an 86, obviously copying the Willem Drew tag there, but still found a way to put up a respectable enough score there. And Tom Mitchell, only a 48. It's very odd that he was the starting sub last week and then he got sub tactically this week, which is strange, but Collingwood won. So I guess it was the right call in a way, but maybe not for fantasy coaches there. So, probably not too much more to go in depth with. So we'll move on to the Sunday games.
Yeah, so just a reminder, Sunday team. So if you want to play, discuss, or a question, answer, tweet it on the spaces below or comment on YouTube. Just to say, we are going to try and go through those midfielders. So if we do cover off that kind of stuff, we probably won't answer those questions. But yeah, GWS defeated by Gold Coast by 40 points at Manuka Oval. Josh Fay came on. I know I've got him on the bench there. Some other teams might do as well. Also, another thing to note, Flanders got 75% CBAs.
Yeah. So Flanders, Mitch, is he an option to look at bringing in? That's now 2 good games in a row. He's playing a lot more, obviously majority mid. He's playing full-time mid since King's taken over as the interim coach. Are you interested in him as a cheaper option?
I think you have to be. He's, all we've seen so far since the new coach has come in, he's come in and scored 120 and then 110, just building off huge CBAs. He's done that in less than 80% game time, both games. So points per minute are off the charts. He's shown pedigree as a scorer before and seems to be in favour with the new coach. So I think we talked about before, like their baby being like a top 6 forwards locked in. I think Sam Flanders could definitely be the 7th guy. So if I'm shopping around for a cheaper option, he's definitely the guy that I'd be considering, just based on what we've seen so far.
Yeah, he has looked very, very good. I can hear Doss making his Flanders song already. So, fantasy this is gonna be fantasy in a nutshell. Harry Himmelberg, 112, and how many people jumped off? I think Tim jumped off in this week.
For took
Luke.
Yeah. Well, actually, technically, Harry shows.
I was fucking filthy, boys. I dead set. I've traded. So my trades to start the week were Flanders in, keeping Himmelberg, and I was looping Daniel. I was looping Mills. Like I was bloody Lupe Fiasco, and then again, Kai Lohman gets named the sub, so fucked me there. And then I've ended up going, okay, well, I don't need Flanders anymore. I'll trade Himmelberg to Sheasel. And so, to be fair, like when I was watching that GWS game, I was bloody flat on a shit Carter's hat. But once Sheasel got going in that last game, I felt a little bit better about myself, but still missed on Flanders. So, yeah, not ideal, but it's how it goes.
But that's fantasy in a nutshell with the Himmelberg one. That's why I said before about McRae will probably go 130 next week. We know that's what happens. Lockie Whitfield, mine and Tim's favourite player, 106. Yep, moving swiftly on from him. Rory Atkins, 100. So, he just continues to go pretty well since Stephen King's been in the side. Would have been good if he had that full-time role when G was there, but we move on. Josh Kelly, 94 as well. Not too bad. Had a very, very poor first half. It went pretty well in the second half there. Stephen Canelio, just a 91, sort of just an average enough score, but it's fine. And then we'll go to the 2 Gold Coast bids. Noah Anderson, 89, and Toot Miller, 81.
I think lockout's lifted, Mitch, if you want to go get rid of McRae.
Oh, don't worry. He is already out of my team. Don't worry about that.
Oh, love it. But Mitch, the 2 Gold Coast mids, Noah Anderson and Toot Miller, a few people. I think did you jump on Toot this week, Mitch?
Yeah, I did. I went Toot over Steele just for the unique play. I sort of thought that, Steele, I think I mentioned this on our podcast before, Steele he's only gone 30 touches once this entire season, and obviously he did that again this weekend, of course.
If it's any consolation, mate, it still was a unique play.
Yeah. Cool. So now I get to hang on to his 80 on my own. But Sam Flanders just came in and ruined it for the rest of the boys. So Noah Anderson kind of saved his score a little bit in that second half, but it's just, if you have the luxury to move on like an Anderson or something like that, I think it's now something you should be looking to do. But he, again, might be a bit down the pecking order. But those 2, I think, definitely are affected by a few more of those bodies going through. The other name that also kind of ruined it a bit was Swallow was back in there a little bit more than last week. So between Flanders, Swallow, Miller, Anderson and Rao, there's a few too many names going in through that midfield than we would probably like.
Yeah. Well, Mitch, you clearly didn't listen to my advice, mate. I said Steele over 2, but that's okay. we're all good. But you're moving on from either of those two, especially for those Anderson owners out there that are a bit concerned after he was struggling for a big last quarter. Would you be moving on a guy like him?
Yeah, I think he's definitely a guy you can move on. Where he falls in terms of your priorities to get out might be a different story. But if he's your worst guy or the guy you're most concerned about, he definitely can be traded out. I think at this point.
Yeah, great. Moving on to the next game, Tim.
Awesome, mate. All right, Melbourne defeated Adelaide by 48 points to the MCG. Ned McHenry and Patrick Parnell were late out. Some selected by Luke Nankervis and Lockie Murphy. Then Murray did a knee and Rankin did a hamstring.
That unfortunately that looked really bad, and I think they're going to be out for the season. So I think Crow's season cooks there. Why can't we kick straight? I don't understand. What do you practice during the week? Anyway, Matt's gone 115. It's been discussed around the community about the maybe if you had an English or a Marshall, is Gawn a tempting prospect, Tim, to be moving off either of those two, or are you still just? And obviously this is team dependent, depends if you have issues and whatever. But if you don't, is there any temptation to go to a Gawn, or would you still just be rolling English and Marshall there?
Look, going back a week or even 2 weeks ago, I thought there might be because, I thought, teams would really be struggling for cash and this would be a really good way to generate a couple of $100,000, right? But also, I guess you've already got 2 weeks of price rises on Gorney, so that's probably really cut, the price difference. What is it now? Let me have a quick look. Where am I?
829 it is.
There you go, 829, right? So it's 100 and, maybe 150, 130. But I just don't know that we need that kind of cash anymore. I guess we've still got some rookies on the bench that we could use if we are trying to generate some cash, providing we don't have bullets and can actually make some upgrades. But many of us haven't been able to make upgrades for the last 2 weeks. And also this mid mix, there's plenty of mids available that are kind of in the 800s, but trying to figure out who is the mids to get on. And maybe this is what it's going to be for these last few rounds. Maybe it's like we lock in our rucks, lock in our forwards, lock in our defenders, and we start playing the matchup game in the mids. But yeah, I don't know that he's a major priority for coaches because I just don't know that we need that kind of cash.
Yeah, I think obviously we like last week, if you got a Briggs or a Darcy Cameron, going to Gawn is the move.
There was there was some talk about Jack Hayes coming in this week. There was some talk about Tom Campbell. So if there is a move made there with the Saints in terms of Rowan Marshall, there's definitely a play to jump on to Gawn because that could impact his scoring.
Yeah, agreed. So, Luke, we're going to go sort of rewind the clock when we did our head-to-head video in the preseason. I remember we discussed Doherty versus Angus Brayshaw.
I'm pretty sure I said Doherty, didn't I? Bales from memory.
We both said Doherty, mate.
Jeez, thank God.
Angus Brayshaw's been hiding away for a lot of the year, but all of a sudden, last few weeks, he's popped back up. He's playing more midfield. Is there any interest from him?
No interest from me. I think sort of like Guesty's kind of been alluding to. I think we're fairly sort of solid on who we think are going to be top of the lines, defence and forwards. And there's more sort of spice and differentiation, I guess, to be had in the midfield. So I think, he's probably a guy that I won't be looking at in the next few weeks, just personally anyway.
Yep. So Luke is swiping left. We'll go Petrarca with a 102. Tim, you pretty obviously happy with him going and getting his hundreds?
Yeah, look, I obviously was worried about after bringing him in a couple of weeks ago when that role switched forward. But, look, he still switches into the mids. He's still been scoring. So, he's been holding his spot.
Yeah, and we'll discuss him probably a little bit as well when we talk about those mids. John Dawson got 97. I don't know. As a Crows fan watching it today, it almost looked like he was missing Laird because Laird's the guy that gives a little handballs out. Don't get me wrong, Dawson still played pretty well, well enough and whatever. But I think Laird is still pretty crucial to that Crows mix. So hopefully Laird's back this week and Dawson get back to his big scoring ways. But still 97, not too bad if you didn't have him captain, but obviously people that had him captain out there obviously a bit frustrated. He couldn't put up a good score there. And Ben Keys, 82. Mitch, he had a big last quarter. Is he a guy that we're looking to move off of, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think he's definitely someone I'd be looking to move off of. Like you said, he saved
Port this week.
He saved his score with a couple of goals there in this game. So currently, like for example, if you can maybe move him to like a Flanders, make 100K and sort of maybe do another upgrade somewhere else, that would definitely be a play that I'd be looking at. Or if you don't have any other issues, you can get him straight up to a Dunkley, then that'd be a huge upgrade in my opinion. So yeah, he's definitely probably towards the top of the priorities to get out at this stage now. Because obviously we sort of were waiting to watch to see how he'd go without Laird, and with a couple of those other midfielders coming in, the role wasn't really there. So yeah, he's a guy that pretty much has to go at this point.
Yep, and Schoenberg and Crouch, who did come in, actually looked pretty good. So, and with Rankin being out, I think Rankin actually being out will mean that Keys will have to spend time forward because they're going to keep one of Schoenberg or Crouch in when Laird comes back in. So, yeah, I think it's you have to move off. I love Keysy, but he would be one of the guys I'd be trying to move off of and make it one of the priorities. Tim, move on to the final game of the round.
Yeah, so Saints defeated North by 8 points at Marble. As a late change, Howell replaced Lazaro on the side, and then Hill did like a rib or a chest or something along those lines in a collision. Actually went off to hospital. Jack Billings was subbed on for Hill in the first quarter, and then Jack Zeeble came on for Liam Shields at three-quarter time.
Yep, beautiful. So Jack Steele, top scoring there, 133 as an owner since, was it round 8 when I brought him in? It's good to finally see him putting up some big scores there. Ryan Marshall, 123, good score from him in what is known as a tough matchup for Rucks, but he didn't care about that and he went about his business. Harry Sheezel, 116. If it wasn't for bloody Laird being out, he would have been in my side, but everyone owning Shees be very happy with another good score there. Marcus Winhager, 114. Hasn't he been very, very good last couple of weeks? Back-to-back tons for him as well. And he's making plenty of cash and essentially being that 23rd player that a lot of coaches can still loop there. Jack Sinclair, 112. Now, Luke, actually, no, I won't go Luke because he doesn't like talking about tags. I'll go to Mitch for here. So Finn McGuinness is coming up this week for the Saints. Is there a play where you could, if you're in a sort of position where you're looking to make a move, a bit unique, could Sinclair be a guy to go with that Finn McGuinness tag on the horizon? Because I think he's going there.
I probably wouldn't. I think that with Sinclair, it's been like he's been able to sort of find his points regardless of attention, or he's playing inside, he's playing outside. So I think the ability for him to play halfback, play inside mid, he'll do enough to at least get by for the week. And there's still enough weeks left where you're going to want him in your side. So I don't think it's enough to jump at shadows with a Sinclair. And I do just want to correct what you said before about the ruck matchups for North Melbourne. They're actually one of the best matchups for rucks over the last sort of 5 and 10 rounds, second only behind Port Adelaide. So just when we're factoring that one in, I think they were tough at the start of the year when Goldie was sort of fresh at the beginning of the season, but since he's kind of dropped away and they brought back in X-Airy, they're a really good matchup. Hence why Marshall was up on the top of the big boys.
Yeah, apologies, listeners, for my incorrect information there. Who else we got here? LDU. I finally got a ton from the midfield I brought in. LDU 104.
Mitch, what are you doing, mate? Coming on other people's pods and correcting their info. What the fuck's going on here?
I just wanted to clarify.
You're not the host here, mate.
mental note.
Yeah. Buddy, we'll get next time Bales
I
is
appreciate
on our bloody show. We'll be, you have permission, Bales. Next time, correct Mitch on our show.
Yeah, well, next time I got to trade in Tuke Miller and you say Jack Steele, just whack me over the head.
Yeah.
No, appreciate it, Mitch. For it is good for the listeners, so they don't get
just sometimes those those scenarios or like the narratives kind of perpetuate themselves, and we kind of hang on to them. So I just wanted to correct that, as we sort of think about those matchups moving forward, because they are important this time of the year.
Yeah, exactly right. But Luke, as I was saying there with LDU, finally bought a ton on debut with a midfielder 104. We'll obviously speak about him with those midfields later on, but still think it's a good option with value there.
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, people who got on a couple of weeks ago sort of absolutely laughing. I traded him in this week. I think I scrolled back through my Twitter and there's a tweet that says LD useless from earlier in the season. So I'm eating my words there, but he's still got a juicy run to come. And I think he's still a little bit of value there.
Yep. Brad Crouch, 97. Now, he is a slight concern there. Now, it's now 3 scores, I think, in a row in the 90s. He's still got Hawthorn this week, so probably not moving off of him with a good matchup, but he is a guy that maybe we're going to have to consider for the week after. We'll talk about him in a sec with the midfielders as well there. Gavin, Wanganeen Millerer there. Tim's mate with an 89, getting the job done. Went off with a bit of a leg concern, but came back on and put up a respectable enough score, so he's going along nicely. Maybe Finn McGuinness goes to him, so that could be something there. Tim, is there any concern there? Are you still going to hold your mate Gavin?
He's someone I'm looking at moving, just because he's kind of one of my lower scoring players. But I'm not in a rush.
Yeah, he's been very, very good this year for his owners, and that was about it. There was a lot of high scores in this game, not too many duds. So, but that's it for the games.
Awesome. All right, well, let's talk these midfielders because, like I said, context for the conversation is we're pretty certain that we know. Well, I think we're pretty clear we know who our top 6 forwards are. I think we certainly know who our top 2 or 3 rucks are. Maybe there's kind of 6 or 7, maybe even 8 defenders kind of there. But I think the real question, I'm noticing my midfielders where the question's at, like, who are going to be these top scoring midfielders? So, Mitch, I'm going to turn it to you, mate. You're the big boy specialist, right? So, these ceiling players. Mate, why don't you try and talk us through it? Who do you reckon are going to be these top, it's a discussion, right? So we can all throw in. But what are your thoughts when it comes to these kind of top 8 mids towards the end of the year?
So, it's the big question, isn't it? I think I can lock in a few players here. So Bonds, I think we can all agree he's going to continue to do what he's doing. Super high floor, just consistent as they come. I think Merritt will bounce back. I think he's got a good couple of matchups coming up with the Eagles and North Collingwood, the last game of the round. So, the Bulldogs, tough team that possess the ball a lot. So I think he'll be okay. Brayshaw, I'm less confident about than I probably was a little while ago, just with how their team is performing. But I still think he'll be in and around the mix.
He's only gone one score over 115 since round 11. That was against Essendon in round 15. Every other score's been between 91 and 110.
So they got Geelong at GMHBA this week. They got Brisbane, so they're probably 2 pretty tough matchups, right? And then Eagles, Port, tough, and then Hawks.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit more cagey about Brayshaw, but probably not someone you're trading out of. But I don't know if you'll be in a rush of trading him in. I actually might even like Sarong a little bit better than Brayshaw these days, just with his consistency and high floor. And then it's probably some of those cheaper guys like a Steele. You're probably liking. I also really like Darcy Parish as well as guys who are in and around the top. But then outside of that, it's a bit of a crapshoot in terms of the filling out the top 8 there. So they're probably the ones that I'm confident in at this stage. But the rest, it's a bit of a mix.
The one guy I'll throw up, so I have to talk about this guy. I'm paid. I've got a contract with Rory Laird to talk about him for every podcast. But so Rory Laird, he was obviously out last week. From what it sounds like, he went on radio. I think it was on the Monday. I think he's on radio in Adelaide, SEN every Monday, talking to Kimbo Roach in Adelaide. So we'll probably hear from him tomorrow. But sounds like he should be back this week. But as a Laird fanboy, I wouldn't be in a rush to bring him in at least for the next fortnight because he's got Port Adelaide, obviously very restrictive, and first game back off an injury. Drew normally goes to Laird in the showdowns, and he's got Gold Coast a week after where Swallow's gone to him the last few games and has tagged him out. So I don't think he's an option for the last couple of weeks. But what are your boys' thoughts on Laird for like the last few weeks after those two matchups?
Yeah.
Is he in the mix?
Yeah, I think he could be. It could almost be a natural progression where people try to get onto Dunkley over the next couple of weeks. For those people who don't own Doherty and Sicily, kind of amend that, and then hopefully after those sort of couple of tough matchups, then Lairdy might be a guy that people look to target at that point. What are your thoughts, Mitch?
Yeah, no, I think Laird, assuming he's fit and firing, which is, I guess, sort of the reason I left him on that list. But if he was healthy, he'd be on that list still for me. Like, he's gotten a bit of a, bad rap because he's put up a couple of dud scores when maybe some of us were, like myself, relying on him as a captain. But if you actually just look over his games, he's only put up 2 like sub 100 scores since round 4. So remarkably consistent. So as long as he's fit and healthy, I think that he's definitely someone you can look to get back in sooner rather than later.
So his average, if you remove that first game, because I just completely wiped that off. Apparently he was sick and it was obviously the hot weather. He's averaging 111 since round 2. So he's obviously going at a very nice clip there. So
yeah, I think that's what you can pretty much expect from him moving forward. But the caveat is that he is obviously healthy and that he's not going to sort of get a sub, something like that at 3/4 time if they're getting smashed or they're smashing the other team. So
Clayton Oliver, is he one that we can look at? Obviously injured, but when he comes back, is he one that we look at as those midfielders to target? Or are we just too nervous after being off?
I think with any of these guys that are coming back off an injury, there's the temptation to at least sort of wait a week, especially when we're talking kind of soft tissue stuff. The thing with Oliver is you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think his break even is super high because the game that he went out in
127.
Yeah, so it's not sort of out of the realms for him. But I think it's probably still high enough that you're having a bit of a look at that. Do we have a timeline for his sort of return?
Well, I've got the injury list thing up in front of me, and I know this thing is just rubbish these days, but it says 3 weeks, updated last on the 18th of July. Okay. So maybe still a couple of weeks away. So that's a long time off all of us. So I wouldn't be jumping the first week.
What do we think, just as a sort of maybe a bit of a strange, different kind of option, if we think a guy like Flanders is going to stick in that role and going to be somewhere sort of around that like 100 mark for the rest of the season, what do we think of trading in a guy like Dunkley as a midfielder with a bit more certainty of his scoring? Is that just a completely ludicrous kind of idea, and then have sort of Flanders as a different option? Might be a bit spicy, but
I was going to bring that point up actually. With maybe putting a Dawson or a Dunkley in the mids. Tim, what are your thoughts on doing something like that?
Yeah, definitely. I think, our defender mids and our forward mids are scoring pretty bloody well at the moment, right? So, and then we've got, some real good options at that kind of F6, like a Flanders. I think it's definitely a play. Yeah. I actually really like when you said it, Roger. I love it. I think that's great.
I was going to be doing something like that this week before the Laird injury. I was going to be bringing a Sicily and having a Will Day in my midfield because I have more confidence in a Sicily scoring compared to some of these other mids that seem to be sort of up and down. I don't think that's a bad shout at all, depending, of course, who you're trading out to get him. I still think you're trying to trade out your worst performing player. So if that just happens to be in your midfield, then that's fine to me.
Yeah. And then to probably wrap up the midfield talk, the ones we probably haven't talked about, obviously Petrarca there, obviously playing a bit more forward. We mentioned Darcy Parish there, and you said you liked him there, Mitch, and I'm the same. Brad Crouch, obviously a couple of sort of poorer scores last week's win. Steele's been back to form. Lockie Neal, who's been very good since the buys when people jumped on him. Libba, bit of a different pod. We mentioned Jack Steele there. Treloar, who's got a obviously good run. Obviously, the soft tissue issues are there with him. And then we'll probably add an LDU there as well. Maybe a Took and Josh Kelly if people want to be generous. But because they obviously didn't put up great scores this week. But anyone keen on those and think they'll be in those top 8 mids on the run home?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, sorry, mate. So Crouch, Neal, and Petrarca, I think are probably in that back end of that top 8. Like we said, we got Parishes in there. I think he's probably, I don't know, mate. Maybe he's a bit higher. He's probably in a higher grade, I think, than Crouch, Neal, and Petrarca. Who did you just say in there that I was like, no, Treloar? No, I wouldn't count Treloar in there. And then I think maybe an LDU Took, I'm going to trade out Took this week, so I'm not sure that he'd be ranking there.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think of all those guys, LDU would be the highest for me. I just think that he's got the ceiling and the market share on the midfield points in that team up against West Coast. He's got a Richmond, Gold Coast, Essendon matchups. All his matchups are fairly positive actually for the rest of the year. So I think that he'd actually be, of those group, the highest in terms of just my projected points.
So can I just... Sorry, man. So we'd say definitely Bont and Merritt top 1 and 2, right?
I would put them there, yeah.
And then agreed. Would you say a Steele above a Brayshaw and Sarong, or would you still have Brayshaw at like a number 3 and a Sarong at a number 4, or those kind of 3 maybe all about the same?
I'd probably put the next 4 as like a Steele, Brayshaw, Parrish, and Sarong as like the next tier.
Just a question, guys. I didn't watch the last game of the round, but just statistics-wise, it looked like Steele did a little bit more scoring through his marks than his tackles in this game. Was that something that people noticed? Is that's a positive sort of thing as well, given that we've seen him doing it, or sort of relying on the tackles to have those ceiling scores? The fact that he brought the marks out this week, do we like that?
Yeah, well, if there's a game where because this game wasn't a hugely contested game, there's a lot of the chip mark, there's a lot of marks going. Obviously, Phillips had 11 tackles, Crouch 8, and then a couple players had 7 and 6, but it was a lot more open. But maybe that it's a good thing that Steele's getting these marks, because we did see when he averaged 120 odd, a couple of years ago, he was getting consistently, like what Dawson's been doing the last few weeks, getting like 7, 8 marks and 9, 10 tackles a week. So I see it as a positive. I don't know what you boys think.
Yeah, I see it's positive too.
Definitely positive for me. And the fact that he got his 30 touches for me is a big tick, because that was obviously something I flagged in the last podcast, that he hasn't really done too much this year. So if he can keep that up, then he'll go a long way to being top 8 or even top 3 or 4 mids this season.
Cool. All right. And then I think you said the next tier was like LDU, Crouch, Neal, and Petrarca, with LDU being at the top there. Where would you fit Laird when he's healthy, when he comes back?
I think Laird would be in that Brayshaw,
Steele, Parrish,
that kind of tier for me. I think he'd be in there. So that pretty much brings you to 7, I think.
Yeah,
there.
So that's Bont at 1, Merritt at 2, Brayshaw 3, Steele 4, Parrish 5, Sarong 6, Laird 7, and then probably an LDU at 8 with a Crouch, Neal, and a Petrarca kind of, rounding out, or just knocking on the door.
I think a healthy Laird just probably goes a little bit. He's probably 3, 4 somewhere like there, and then
especially after the next 2 games, the Port Gold Coast games, which I flagged earlier. It'd probably go up in the top sort of 4 or 5.
All right, cool. Well, I think that gives everyone a good idea about where we think people are going to fit with their mids. All right. Well, Mitch, mate, I don't know if you've got to jump off, man. I know you said you can only do an hour.
I'll have to jump off, boys. But thanks for having me on. Unfortunately, it was the round didn't go out I wanted to go, but still front up and face the music.
That's it, mate. That's it. Well, mate, we'd love to have you on. Thanks for all the stuff you do with the big boys and the ball boys. We love all the work you're doing over there this year. It's I think it's a really great addition to the community, mate. And why don't you tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, so you can find myself and Luke talking shit a couple times a week at the Ball Boys AFL Fantasy Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever, or also on YouTube. YouTube channel is the same name as well. And if you want to listen to my ramblings and rantings on Twitter at Ball Boys Fantasy as well, you can find me there. So
awesome,
cheers,
awesome.
guys.
Thanks, jump on.
Thanks,
Roger,
Mitch.
Gonna hang around for 5
I'll hang
minutes.
around.
I'm going to do some questions.
Sounds good, mate. I've got a couple of questions myself, so I'm keen.
Awesome.
Catch
Cheers,
Mitch.
Awesome.
Beautiful. Thanks,
mate.
Mitch. Well, Luke, mate, if you want to, well, for people listening, if you've got any questions or players send through, make sure you do that now. But Luke, mate, fire through. You had a couple of questions.
Just sort of selfishly, and perhaps it'll answer some questions for other people as well. I just kind of want to get everyone's thoughts in terms of ranking Dunkley, Sicily, and Doherty as sort of in order of sort of priority this week. Because, like I said, a few bullets have prevented me from getting sick and Doc in the last couple of weeks, and now I'm kind of staring down the barrel of those 3, and I'd be interested to see where people would go first.
Sure, mate.
Well, Tim,
So,
can you rank?
yeah,
Can you add Parrott? Can you add Parrish in as well? Because a few people are sort of keen on him as a pod. So maybe those
do I have
four.
to? No, I'm not adding Parrish. Here's why. Because look, I was looking at bringing in Dunks, but the reality is probably the three that I'm looking at are actually Dunks, Sicily, or Doc. I'm probably not looking at a Parrish, but yeah, I mean, you can add your 2 cents in. So initially I was looking at Dunks because I think there's a real opportunity, but his break even is still going to be 141. He's priced at 960, and he's also up against the Gold Coast this week, which Gold Coast can be a little tough to score against.
They got a 125 against them in round 10 when they played the Gabba.
But at the same time, Hawks have got the Saints matchup. So, and then Sick Dog is, I think, a bit cheaper as well. How much is Sick Dog? He's 944. I mean, not that really prices and break evens matter too much at this time of year, but it might matter, for people that are a little tough on cash. But I think Sicily's the better matchup just for this week. I think, particularly if Blank comes back in and he gets freed up a little bit more, he could have a 150.
Yeah.
Then who's Doc playing this week? Doc is playing Collingwood. So
Saints.
yeah, they have been a little bit easier, but I'm also just a bit uncertain with Doc's role because he played a lot of inside mid time this week. But that was because the Carlton were depleted from the midfield. So,
but Walsh is out now as well.
Yeah, and he's been playing up on that wing. I'm not as certain in his role, which is unusual for Doc because normally he's someone that you feel pretty secure about.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. The fact that Carlton had so many out and that he was playing a lot more midfield time. But it has been a little more unpredictable this year. I think Sicily's probably where my thinking is early this week. With that matchup, could be too good to miss. But yeah, it's a little bit frustrating with all the bullets we've had to think that they, 2/3 of those guys could already be in the team.
Yeah. I mean, just to have a look at how friendly that matchup was that last game. I mean, there's just points everywhere.
For sure.
Yeah. I'd probably rank it, Sicily, Dunkley, Doherty, probably for if you're going for this week.
For sure. Thank you for that, gents. We got some questions from the listeners as well. Have we?
All right, let's have a look. So Corey Blackledge has asked Sam Walsh, Hobbs and Ashcroft. He's got all three. What do I do with all three? But I think I have to look Hobbs and Widhager again. Yeah, look, I don't think there's... I mean, look, you could actually trade Hobbs. Hang on, no, forget Hobbs.
You have to trade Ashcroft and Walsh because they're the ones out.
Yeah.
You've got to keep Hobbs, unfortunately, and try and loop him, as you said.
Yeah, no, that's right. Lockie asked thoughts on Bailey Smith. So, look, I think I'd watch and wait. I mean, obviously a nice score, but didn't have the CBAs. And I think there's just way too many unknowns in that Western Bulldogs midfield. So, yeah, I'd be a bit wary of it. Bars, you got any questions there for you too?
Yes, well, John just said, we'd trade in Doherty or Dunkley. So if you're getting this week, would we be going Dunkley over Doherty for the certainty in role?
I think I like it also because of the uniqueness. Not everyone will be able to get there.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that should factor into that person's decision-making is where they're ranked, what they want to do in terms of uniqueness. So I think that's a good point, Guesty.
Yeah. James has got this one. Your thoughts on going Keys to Sheasel this week? Do we still get Sheasel?
Yeah. What's their run? I mean,
they got the Eagles this week. I know that.
And then after
they got a very nice run actually to finish the year.
We've been talking about LDU's great run. So
Eagles, Melbourne, Essendon, Richmond, Suns. So yeah, they got a pretty decent run there.
I'll tick it off.
I mean, look, if you could be getting up higher, I would go
Dunkley,
up higher, like a Dunkley, a Doherty, a Sicily.
Butters, if you don't have him potentially.
Yeah, but if you can't, then sure, Sheasel.
Yep, agreed. And then I just got one other here from Joel. He said, who to trade out first, Windhager or Himmelberg is the first combo. So there's one combo. So who are you trading out of those two, Mitch? Sorry, not Mitch, Luke. Bloody hell, now I'm stuffing names.
No, you're good. I'm trading the Berg there. Hey, Windy's last couple have just been, last three or so have been pretty good. I think I'd go Berg.
Yeah,
and I think Berg could have been just one out of it. It could have been just one out of the box as well, right? Like he's been scoring 70s.
Yeah, so, I think that he'll probably default back to that sort of 70, 80. After this week.
Yeah, I feel awful. I hate getting people's names mixed up. Sorry, Luke, for that one there. And then the other one was Keys or Darcy Cameron. Joel said there I'd be trading Keys over Darcy Cameron with the if Adelaide are going to keep Schoenberg and Crouch in the side, I just don't see Keys being in that midfield. And against Port Adelaide this week. Yep, you can go.
All right. Got a couple here. So Sean asked, two-part question. Who goes first out of Anderson, Soldo and Himmelberg? I think I would say...
Is the Berg?
Yeah, I think it's the Berg.
Yeah.
I know he went well.
How many more weeks has Nank the Tank got? Is two?
One more.
Okay. Yeah.
So maybe hold Soldo for one more week and move on in.
Yeah, and would you go Soldo to Cornelio or Himmelberg to Dunkley? I would go
Berg to Dunkley.
Oh, yeah. I would.
This week, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Then Peter asked Darcy Parish. Oh, no, he doesn't ask. He actually says Darcy Parish and Nish Martin elite 3-game stretch coming up. Good point, Peter. It's well spotted. Nacho Keys, is it just me or does it keep dropping out? Well, I hope not. Hope everyone can hear. All right. Maybe I should read these ahead before I actually read them out. Who would you trade out first out of Mills, Day, or Darcy Cameron? So, Bales, who would you trade out first out of Mills, Day, or Darcy Cameron?
Mills, Day, Darcy Cameron. Geez, tough one. Because Mills hasn't been getting it done. Will Day has been sort of in around. It probably depends on the upgrade you can get in terms of who you trade out here. If you can go like a Mills all the way up to like a Bont, that's probably the move you go. But I also really like probably going Darcy Cameron up to Josh Dunkley doing that. I guess Will Day's probably the one just hold for a bit. He's still got the role, so I'd probably go Darcy Cameron out first, I think.
Yeah, cool. All right. Luke, the number 4 says DC to LDU or double downgrade.
Oh, DC. Not this time.
Yeah.
You want to get points on your field. Yeah. So, first option.
Exactly. Then Chris asked, can we rank Jackson, Day and Mills for trading out? Who would you be trading out first, Jackson, Day or Mills?
Definitely not Jackson. No. People looking at bringing him in.
Yeah, I'd hang on to Jackson, especially if we get that confirmed Shawnee Darce out. And then who the Day or Mills were the other two? I think, like Bale said, as much as Mills has been disappointing, he at least sort of in the back of our minds, we know that if he gets the role and if he does Mills things, like it could be a 150 any given week. So I think I'd,
Here's the thing to think about with this one, right? So Jackson is probably in the forward line, Day is probably in the defensive line, and Mills is probably in the midfield, right? So I think it's going to depend on
where
who
you're
you
going,
can get to.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, and like you've got Dunks in the forward line, which could mean that Jackson is an option. Getting up to Sick Dog or this week could mean Day is an option. But at the same time, if you haven't got a Bond or a Merritt or, we just ranked our mids before, if you haven't got one of the high ones, maybe Mills is the move out there.
Yeah. I've got just quick one here. Moon Boy, he's going Keys out. Goulden or Dunkley? Is it Dunkley for the uniqueness there?
Dunkley, yeah, I would go Dunkley. Oh, hang on, what's the matchup? Who is Sydney playing this week?
Essendon at Marvel. That could be a good matchup for Goulden, actually, under the roof.
Yeah. Here's what I would do. I would wait until 2:30 Western Standard Time on Friday and tune into the ball box to hear Mitch roll out his big boys, and then depending on who's rated higher on the big boys, that's what we're bringing in.
Thanks for the shout out, Guesty. Mitch,
love it.
Mitch will be happy with that one. he's a good sport, old Mitch. I just put shit on him basically all podcast. He comes on here, I put shit on him, and he just water off a duck's back. He's a good sport. So
yeah, mate, it's been a rough round for him as well this week. Cool. All right. Well, I've got one last question, then we're going to wrap it up. So, Keys to Dunkley or English? Wow.
Or English, goodness.
Once again, I think the big boys is going to determine this.
If you were going to,
English has got the Giants.
But if you were considering English, like at this stage of the season, wouldn't you just do Gorn? Do you know what I mean? Like as a point of difference. So I'd probably say Dunkley there if I was picking from those two, but if I was looking to be really spicy, I might consider, if I don't have English, going Gorn.
And depending on where your team's at as well, because of Dunkley's break even and his price as well, you might Gorn might be the play for this week, depending on his matchup. Who are Melbourne up against this week? Let's have a look.
They are up against
Adelaide.
Richmond. Richmond.
Oh,
that was
Richmond. Sorry,
this week.
Yeah, that's I'm refreshed. Cool. All right. Well, there you go. All right. Well, that takes care of all of our questions. So that's right. I wrap everything up now. Just reading the script, figuring out what I got to do. That's right. Thank guests now.
Guests.
Roger, thanks for coming on.
I appreciate you guys having us on.
You're a bloody
it's
legend,
always
mate.
fun to jump on. So if people are keen to catch us, like Mitch said, check us out at Ball Boys on YouTube. But
and what's your Twitter handle, mate, so people can give you a follow?
I can't even remember what my Twitter handle is. I think it's Luke Rojo 17.
Luke Rojo
is
17 or
thank you.
something like that, isn't it? Something like that, yeah.
So don't follow me if you like a lot of content. Mitch is the one that just sits there and tweets all day. But yeah, I occasionally come out with some stuff. I'm the lurker.
He's the brains. You're the beauty. You're the beauty. He's the brains.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Any early rage trades?
Man, I'm actually having dinner at the in-laws tonight, so I've snuck off to one of the spare bedrooms. So I haven't had a really good look at my team. But you know me, mate, level-headed as they come. So no rage trades. No rage trades for me.
What about you, Bales? What are you thinking of doing?
So I'll be looking at probably moving off of Ben Keys, unfortunately, this week. He's probably got to go with that tough matchup. And Josh Dunkley is the guy that's in my sights because the head wobble I've already got docking in Sicily. So, don't have to worry about it. So, no, Parrish was the other one I looked at as well. But I think Dunkley, got to have him, and he's might be a bit unique this week. So, I think it'll be just a downgrade and getting Dunkley in. What yourself, Tim?
I think it'll be took to sick dog for me.
Sweet.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for everyone for joining us tonight. Thanks for tuning in live. We love our live listeners. Much appreciated. And thanks in particular for those that send in questions. Remember, you can send your questions to us anytime during the week and give us a follow at Twitter at AFL Fantasy Fans. And don't forget to tune in each week, whether it's after the final siren of each round or whether it's at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard. 2 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Western. For our pre-lockout chat. I screwed up all the times that I was getting confused with the Ball Boys. And remember, you can listen to these spaces on the AFL Fantasy Fanatics podcast or wherever you get your podcasts. Please subscribe to the pod and please give us a 5-star review. Much appreciate that. Best luck with your research and trades this week, and we will catch you all again at the same time next week. Thanks a lot and bye for now.
See ya.
Guys, thanks for having me.
Ciao.
Beautiful. Thanks for jumping on, Luke, mate. Appreciate you and Mitch jumping on
as
always.
No dramas. It's always good fun, mate. Always good fun. So, and like we've sort of all been saying all year, it's just great to see so many people in the community giving their opinions and jumping on these things and being really friendly. So we appreciate everything you guys are doing for that.
Beautiful. Thanks, mate. Thanks, Tim, as always, mate.
Yeah, guys. Good on you.
Beautiful. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, have a great week. We'll chat to you soon, all right? Yeah, no, sorry, the dog's it's distracting.
See you guys. Take care.
All right. Good. Beautiful.
Ciao.
Thanks, guys. And everyone tuning in on YouTube, I'll be back next week, post the Twitter spaces answering the questions. Just while in person, we won't be doing it. So, but yeah, thanks, everyone, for tuning in. And we'll catch you next week.